Good morning, coffee moaners. Good morning on Saturday, the 31st of January, the end of January. My God, there is an awful lot of Epstein news today. My God, sorry for, well, it's only a slight delay coming to you. It's been, my God, there's just so many twists and turns and emails and photos and clips and all of it, an unedifying, distressing, disturbing collection of new revelations, new suggestions, new accusations, new connections. I mean, and so many sort of unanswered questions at the back of it. So we're going to be, unfortunately, bedding into this. And I want to sort of say right at the beginning, I do think I need to issue something of a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about essentially the highest profile grooming gang in the world, the kind of grooming gang that, interestingly, parties like Reform aren't as interested in because it involves incredibly influential, powerful, global, white leaders of industry, law, royalty, and government. So, so many, so many sort of lurid details threaded throughout many of the files that have been released, and yet there are sort of other curiously overarching questions around, again, and we have made this point many times, and we will not stop saying this, the Israeli Zionist, AIPAC, Israeli lobby, Israeli intelligence influence that is felt within these files, and the ways in which our mainstream media in the UK specifically wants to get the headlines and get the clickbait and publish the stories around Epstein, but they kind of don't want to ever touch the baked in politics of the story. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, let's rush images, which we're going to look at, images of former Prince Andrew all over the front of the papers, themselves lurid, disgusting, horrible. We're going to discuss those. Yes, let's maybe even tickle at the edges of what it's being suggested Donald Trump has gotten up to. But let's not mention the suggestion or the increasing presence of references to Donald Trump being compromised by the Israeli intelligence agencies. Let's not talk about the fact that this was an entire blackmailing, baiting operation by an Israeli asset in America that has maintained control over the West for decades and led to a go slow and refusal to acknowledge the genocide in Gaza, and is currently leading to an escalatory conflict with Iran. So we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to look at the specifics. We're going to look at the photographs of that have just been published of, I just call him Prince Andrew because I can't be bothered to say Andrew Mountbatten, formerly Prince, Andrew. We're going to look at the photos of Andrew. We're going to look at some of the email accusations around Donald Trump. And again, trigger warning, some of the nature of some of the accusations are absolutely hideous. And yet again, one has to forever qualify. These are not, we don't have first-hand evidence of certain crimes happening. We have kind of statements and emails and dialogues, second-hand evidence, second-hand comments from other people about people. But they all, it's like, once you sort of see so many references to the same story coming from so many different angles, one has to pause and one has to sort of take stock and go, well, hang on a minute, this is happening a little bit too often. So we're going to be talking about all of those various things. It's an absolute cesspit. So the mainstream media, as Arsenal Troll says, in lockstep to keep hush about the central theme of Israel blackmail ring. Absolutely right. Absolutely, they want to publish the lurid details because it's good for business. But they don't want to talk about what's actually behind all of it. They want to talk about the fact that there are photos, that the fact that these people are compromised, but they don't want to talk about who was compromising them, who was blackmailing them, who was taking the photos of particular types of people, and how those images and this content has been used as leverage for decades. It's a staggering dereliction of any journalistic integrity whatsoever. No one asked. I mean, if ever there was a time for a sort of Watergate scandal, deep dive into the truth of things, where are the brave people? Well, interestingly, even on that, you know, we have independent journalists being arrested in America. Quite something, quite something. So, so we're going to be talking about all of these things, and I do want to say that you know, I can't stress enough that some of the subjects, some of the nature of some of the things that crops up is just truly horrific. What did they blackmail them to do? Exactly. Well, I mean, in terms of, you know, governmental decisions, policies, not pushing. I mean, maybe it's a rhetorical question, but you know, the blackmail is so that no one pushes back against Israeli expansionism, the Israeli treatment of the Palestinians, Israeli ambitions around the globe. And you know, now, isn't it interesting how one just realizes at this point how that very easy accusation of, oh, it's an anti-Semitic trope. It's an anti-Semitic trope to say that the Israeli government, and this isn't about Jewish people. This has got nothing to do with Jewish people. This is to do with the Israeli state. Just like people who are boycotting traveling to America don't dislike all Americans. No one makes that. We just don't like Trump. We don't trust Trump, his regime, his supporters. That doesn't mean all Americans are hated. If you can get on board with that, then you can get on board with the fact that you can hate Israel and the government and not hate Jewish people. But now, doesn't it just sort of all just click into place? It's an anti-Semitic trope to suggest that somehow senior Zionist, high up intelligence Israeli assets have threaded their control through American society, through Western society. It's not a trope, it's a fact. And the fact that you have used defenders of the Israeli regime, the anti-Semitic trope accusation, you've used that almost like a human shield to prevent people from feeling they can say what they see, say what they hear, say what they read, and say what they fundamentally feel. Once again, senior assets, senior figures in Israel and the West throwing the term anti-Semitism under the bus, using something that was very real, is very real, was a consequence of and cause of the most appalling atrocities of the 20th century, using it, rinsing it dry of any substance or meaning to cover up the fact that the entire American system, the entire American media, the Western system, threaded all the way up to royalty, it has been entirely compromised. So, you know, it's just staggering that we are going to look at the individual people involved. We are going to look at the individual accusations. We are going to be appalled by what is being suggested and what has come out. We are going to be deeply unsettled by images that in and of themselves, one has to stress when we get to the former Prince Andrew, themselves don't suggest or illustrate overtly illegal behavior, but they add to and they become part of an increasingly large tapestry of disturbance. We will look at all of those in their on their individual merits, but let's not forget that behind every single one of them was a man operating for Israel, operating on behalf of the Israeli intelligence services to make all of these senior, significant, powerful people feel compromised. And it's being pointed out, a number of kind of, you know, independent media outlets and a number of influencers, commentators online, social media commentators are saying, is there any coincidence between the files that dropped yesterday, landing yesterday, at a point where it could be argued that according to Israel, Donald Trump was kind of pulling his punches a bit and not really willing to strike Iran? Could this be seen, the elements in these files? So again, I think, you know, the government is doing a good job of just saying it's all hearsay, they're all accusations, they're baseless kind of, it's baseless kind of tittle tattle about a man that we can't prove, nothing's provable. Is it coincidental that at the point that America seems to not quite be willing to attack Iran, Israel or Israeli intelligence punished that hesitancy? And you're right, who's just said that? Stephanie Rose. And only a woman is in jail in relation to all of this. And she looks like she could get a pardon any minute anyway. Okay, so before we go into, I'm just going to give you some of the kind of broader headlines that are knocking about across all the platforms. January 30th, this was last night, DOJ, Department of Justice, releases millions of pages of documents in Epstein investigation. US officials dismiss sensational Trump claims in Epstein files. US Justice Department releases more than 3 million new pages of Epstein files. Epstein survivors say the new documents expose victims' names while men still remain protected as it happened. Elon Musk revealed to have more extensive ties to Epstein than previously known. Jeffrey Epstein raped and attacked girls several times a day as part of a sickening routine revealed in newly released documents. Bill Gates caught sexually transmitted diseases from Russian girls, Epstein claims in files. That's just your starter. I'm just going to play you the Deputy Attorney General's kind of statement, press conference, if you like. Is it Todd Blanche when they released the files yesterday?
3 million pages, including more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. In total, that means that the department produced approximately 3.5 million pages in compliance with the Act. To protect victims, we redacted every woman depicted in any image or video, with the exception of Ms. Maxwell. We did not redact images of any men, unless it was impossible to redact the woman without also redacting the man. I can assure that we complied with the statute, we complied with the Act, and there is no, we did not protect President Trump, we didn't protect or not protect anybody. I mean, I think that there's a hunger or a thirst for information that I do not think will be satisfied by the review of these documents. And there's nothing I can do about that. But President Trump, of all the people in Washington, D.C. and around this country that have said for years the same consistent message about Jeffrey Epstein is President Trump. And so there's not been a change of course or anything, and certainly his direction to the American people and the Department of his direction to the Department of Justice was to be as transparent, release the files, be as transparent as we can.
So it's interesting this, I'm just fascinated, and I want to read some of your comments there in terms of connecting this up with Israel, connecting this up with Iran. So the feeling now, let's assume that, you know, the Department of Justice has released these. Trump's team, Trump must have known they were coming. They can claim that they are just sensational suggestions and, you know, the accusations that we're going to get to the really dirty, nasty stuff in a minute has all emanated out of email correspondence. But the idea that here's my fear, because I just thought someone made quite an interesting kind of observation there. Where was it? If this is a blackmail, now it's all exposed. Trump has no need to attack Iran and cause World War III. Here's my thinking on that. Sabah Shaukat 1386. This is damaging and difficult to manage. But given the history and the knowledge we have of Trump and his regime and how they can ride things out, I think he can even ride this out. They can just say they're sensationalist, they're baseless, it's supposition, there's no primary evidence. What if, though, even though Todd Blanche is standing there, he's using things like 3 million. It sounds like a lot. Let's not forget, only a couple of weeks ago, they were telling us that what files? Bondi said the files were on a desk. Then they said there were no files at all. Then it was a Democrat hoax. Then it was a Russia hoax. Then there were no files. Then suddenly there were files again. Suddenly they'd released the files. That's as many files as you can have. And then suddenly 3 million, which is a lot. 3 million is a number that we all go, fuck me, that must be comprehensive. But what if 3 million is nowhere near fucking comprehensive? And what if the redactions redact most of the incriminating evidence yet again? So here's the thing. Yes, this is a big dump of Trump nastiness, but maybe they're making an educated hedging gamble here of thinking this is still bad, and it doesn't sound nice, and it doesn't read well, and it doesn't make good headlines like the ones I'm about to show you in a minute. but we can still even ride this out. And what if there's still more being held back? There's more powder in their pocket, more powder in their gun. You know, what if the worst is still yet to potentially be released? And this is that final little fucking warning shot to Trump. Do something about Iran. Do something about this. You know, who knows? Again, this is supposition. This is all possibilities. We are going to get to the Andrew photos, which are quite disturbing. But I am going to pop up a headline that is really disturbing. So pre-warned, please. This uploads for adults. It's not meant to be seen by kids. So please, no children around this. Donald Trump accused of measuring child's genitals with finger in Epstein files. This is perhaps the most, I mean, he's been also accused of committing oral rape on children, young girls, children. So I'm just going to read you, this is the Mirror's reporting this. Interestingly, only the more left wing, in fact, not even the Guardian has reported this, or the Independent, but the Mirror, which is more left wing than any of the other tabloids. Only the Mirror and the Daily Star, which I believe the Mirror now owns, is reporting this. Yeah, okay, I can see you're all shocked. So yeah, let's keep this up then. So here we go. I'm just going to read you the full story. Newly released documents from the Epstein files include an email summarizing a complaint alleging that child auctions were held at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, accusations which, of course, have been denied by the White House. Donald Trump is accused of measuring a child's genitals with his fingers at an auction at his Mar-a-Lago residence in newly released documents. The statements appear in an email summarizing complaints. I'm just going to pull that down now in case it's just too much for people. The disturbing statements appear in an email summarizing complaints submitted to the FBI's National Threat Operations Center related to Epstein. Trump is alleged to have hosted parties at his Florida resort, and during these events, Epstein is claimed to have brought children in and auctioned them off. In response, the White House said the allegations are unfounded and false, and said that the Epstein investigation has been weaponized against Trump. The document published by the Department of Justice as part of the Epstein files on Friday includes allegations from an unnamed person who claimed that Trump would measure genitalia. The alleged guests at these parties included high-profile figures such as Musk, Donald Trump Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. We were taken in rooms, forced to give oral sex to Donald Trump, the unverified account continues, forced to allow them to penetrate us. I was 13 years old when Donald J. Trump raped me. Ghislaine Maxwell was also present. As Musical Chimp says, the revelations, these emails have only been, these files have only been out since yesterday. So more and more. Now, in the spirit of absolute legal kind of, transparency, but, legal clarification, this isn't first-hand evidence of these things happening. These are testimonies. But they chime with other testimonies that have been heard or been recorded or have been released online in the past. And so if we have any worry, I'm not suggesting Me Too, this is the smoking gun that people have been worried about, but does even this secondhand sort of testimony speak to perhaps more than you were thinking there would be in these files? I mean, I think it's pretty damn horrific to have it released. Now, in releasing it, I think that, again, I do wonder whether there could be a hedging situation here that Trump's team are thinking, because these are accusations and they're in email exchanges between people, they can ride these out. These allegations, these rumors have been swirling out there. Other testimonies have been out there. His supporters will support him, says Al Rohn, 07. If they can ride this out, I think, here's my thinking. If America attacks Iran, and isn't it bizarre that we're looking at global politics in this way? But I think if America does attack Iran, and I think you're right, everyone's saying here that, the price of oil, it doesn't suit most people for them to attack Iran. But I think if America does attack Iran, it will be less about an attempt to eclipse the awfulness of this news. I think it will be more about the fact it will confirm to me, it would suggest to me that there is worse material that could possibly come out. Because I think if he attacks Iran after this amount of stuff has come out, then I'm beginning to feel the hand of influence of international intelligence agencies are at work on America. But it's shocking. I mean, I can see from your responses, I was going to say, how does it make you feel? I mean, it's the most unedifying accusations. It's the most unedifying suggestion, isn't it? Just that headline is just alone is just horrendous. Let me just pull this. No, it's not that one. Just pulling up another one here. Oh, here we go. Donald Trump accused of raping 13-year-old. Trump named in 2016 civil lawsuit involving allegations concerning a 13-year-old. Case was withdrawn before trial, but the claim is referenced in the recently released Epstein files. Trump accused of raping teen in new Epstein files drop. So, you know, it's real. Those are the kind of headlines that, you know, Donald Trump's needing to ride out. But could there potentially be even worse? Could there potentially be even worse than that? And again, interestingly, there's two things here. I wonder whether an educated gambling guess has been made that they would rather ride out the awfulness of that accusation and just the implications of such awfulness. And there are other suggestions of other awful kind of possible things. Again, these are all in email exchanges from the threat by Trump and Epstein of making a woman disappear if she went to the authorities. You know, if anyone needs any understanding potentially of why the victims never went to the authorities, when you are literally told that they can just make you disappear and vanish, that could perhaps be part of the reason. I just think that the Trump regime and the Western media would rather ride out the awful sexual facts or suggestions that are coming out of the Epstein files rather than what's bedded in them. Trump was compromised by Israel. FBI document in Epstein files is within a lot of kind of text and communiques. The sentence is used and written, Trump has been compromised by Israel. Again, lots of kind of redactions and comments there. I'm just going to read from The Canary. More explosive accusations from today's Epstein files. An FBI report from a credible and confidential human source said that US President Donald Trump had been compromised by Israel and that his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was effectively running his organization and presidency. That's what's kind of contained within a lot of that small print there. The report links Kushner. Let's not forget, Kushner is the guy who is about to build on the bones of the Palestinians, right? Yeah, Jared Kushner. He's a driving force there. The report links Kushner's family to corruption, Russian cash, and the ultra-Zionist Chabad group. It also names Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, as co-opted by the Israeli intelligence service Mossad to control elite students. Kushner's father was convicted of financial crimes and then pardoned by Trump. Epstein's status, it would be suggested from the file dump yesterday, proves beyond reasonable doubt and ties him to that he was an Israeli intelligence operative, and ties to his closest friend Trump provide a likely means of compromat, allegedly making Trump a tool of Israel. So once again, none of the mainstream media choosing to focus on that. Go, if you want to read the full story on that, go to thecanary.co. Is it just .co or .co.uk? And you can get the full story, and you can see what's referred to here in the Kushner references. But that statement there, Trump has been compromised by Israel. Just remember that. Just remember that. Compromised by Israel. I just want to share with you this statement by a online influencer commentator.
Justice Department just released 3 million new Epstein files, including a lot about Trump, and they are the most disturbing allegations we've seen yet. I know some journalists are censoring these details, but I think it's so important for you to know. Trigger warning, it's really hard to hear. Donald Trump, the president, had parties at Mar-a-Lago called calendar girls, which we know is true. Jeffrey Epstein would bring the children in and Trump would auction them off. He measured the children's vulva and vaginas by entering a finger and rated the children's tightness. Like, I'm actually sick to my stomach. The guests were elder men and included Elon Musk, Don Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump were there. We were taken in rooms, forced to give oral sex to Donald J. Trump, forced to allow them to penetrate us. I was 13 years old when Donald J. Trump raped me. Ghislaine Maxwell was also present. And here's another one. A caller reported an unidentified female friend who was forced to perform oral sex on President Trump approximately 35 years ago in New Jersey. The friend told Alexis, that name was supposed to be redacted, that she was approximately 13 to 14 years old when this occurred, and the friend allegedly bit President Trump while performing oral sex. The friend said she was allegedly hit in the face after she laughed about biting President Trump. The friend said she was also abused by Epstein. And there's more. Another caller named individuals involved in big orgy parties with other young girls and older Victoria's Secret models that included Bill Clinton and Trump. Another online complaint reported she was a victim and witness to a sex trafficking ring at the Trump golf course in Rancho Palos Verdes, California between 1995 and 1996. She reported Ghislaine Maxwell was the madam and broker of the sex parties, many of whom included Epstein, Robin Leach, and Donald Trump. Complaint reported participating in orgies and that some girls went missing, rumored to have been murdered and buried at the facility. Complaint reported being threatened by Trump's then head of security that if she ever talked of what went on there or who she saw, I assume they mean she, would end up as fertilizer in the back nine holes like the other C word. This is insane. And then another complaint claims to have video of high-profile sex parties, dealings with cartels, and having witnessed Robin Leach strangle a young girl to death at a party. I can't even believe that we're reading this stuff. I also wonder if they will ever let that video see the light of day. That's all we have for now because News Girls is just starting to look through these files, but we will be posting videos all day as we uncover things.
Turned into fertilizer, sex trafficking, murders. Robin Leach, who I believe was a TV presenter, strangling a girl to death. Again, at this point, secondhand statement, secondhand testimony. Who would want to actively make that sort of level of detail up? It's so the problem with this for those involved is it's so extraordinarily evil that if you were to make it up, you would assume you wouldn't be believed. And that also kind of speaks to why perhaps it was never talked about, because if you were to say this stuff, who on earth would believe you? I wanted her to explain it to you. I wanted it to come from a woman. I wanted the unabridged kind of version of it to be publicized, because as many people are saying, the mainstream media are not covering this in its entirety. The Mirror, interestingly, of all papers, has stepped the closest towards it. Why? For taste and decency? This is beyond taste and decency. So I think we're at a curious tipping point where perhaps if Donald Trump had hit Iran already, maybe these wouldn't have been, maybe not as much as what has been released wouldn't have been released. Or maybe this is a warning shot across Trump's bow saying this is bad, but it could get even worse unless you do what we want you to do. So I think it's we must watch and how fucking awful. We were at an event last night, a Children Not Numbers event, just discussing the progress they'd made as a charity, discussing the plight of the Palestinians. We heard stories about the extraordinary level of effort, intricacies, specialisms and expertises required to get a child, one Palestinian child, out of Gaza into Jordan for emergency medical treatment. One, the amount of hurdles that had to be leapt over, the amount of fundraising that had to be engaged in, the number of experts and medical experts and diplomatic experts who had to leave their own jobs and kind of work out how to make this happen for one child to get out of Gaza. And the reason I'm connecting these, everything that has happened to the Palestinians, in part and in full, due to both what Israel have directly done, but what the West, because the West have been blackmailed into silence, have allowed Israel to do, is all based upon white men raping children. It's not more complicated than that. And it fucking breaks my heart. And it speaks to an evil that is laced through our system, right through fucking Keir Starmer's Paddington Bear eyes, saying he knew nothing about what Mandelson knew, and Mandelson knew. We're going to talk about him in a minute. White, powerful, rich men who were having sex with children. Everything that has happened to the Palestinians is a consequence of the country whose intelligence agencies had blackmail material on Western powerful white men who were pedophiles, and the genocide was allowed to happen. Don't let people tell you these things aren't connected. Don't let the Telegraph sit there, as we're going to watch their headlines, as they get the clickbait on the photos of Andrew Mountbatten, but fail to talk about the political connections or the political context or the geopolitical inferences that are coming out of these files. Do not let them use the awfulness of these men's specific peccadillos and sexual behavior as a smokescreen to hide the bigger picture. We can all get our knickers in a twist, and we can all get extraordinarily angry and upset about fucking hell. Look at Prince Andrew. This is the press picking and cherry picking and choosing the parts of the story they want the public to get irate about, so they don't ask probing questions about all the rest of it. The UK is entirely compromised. It's no coincidence that the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, Starmer, is our Prime Minister, with his inexpressive Paddington Bear eyes covering for everything. He's a perfect spokesperson, or what do they call them in cricket? What's it called in cricket? A night watchman. Is it a night watchman when they send a kind of batsman out just to hold the wicket so they don't lose a wicket going into the evening recess? Is it a night watchman? I think it is. Just someone to hold the crease, just make sure you don't lose another wicket. Just hold the wicket. That's all Starmer is. That's all this government is. An Israel supporting Labour leader. Trump compromised by Israel. New Epstein files claim. That headline should be given equal precedence across all our media, rather than just the images, really unedifying ones, of Prince Andrew. Moving on to those. Andrew pictured on all fours over woman in Epstein files. Emails show the disgraced financier offered to introduce the then Duke of York to a young Russian woman 2 years after his conviction. So that was all bullshit, the Emily Maitlis, all of it. There he is. There's a young woman on the floor. Her face is redacted. Again, there is no obvious suggestion of any sexual impropriety there. He's got, in one image, he's got his hand on her chest and on her abdomen, on the floor. I think there's someone behind him with a pair of slippers on, just watching on. Andrew went to intimate dinner with Epstein after his prison release. Files suggest the FBI needs to drag this motherfucker into America and talk to him. He knows more. And if he knows more, not only open the files, open a full and transparent fucking investigation into this. Andrew photos bombshell. Disturbing photos in Epstein files appear to show former Prince Andrew on all fours over female. We don't need to, hover over them for too long. Mandelson. Jeffrey Epstein sent money to Mandelson's husband after prison release, email suggests. And do you remember the supercilious fuckwad sat there on television saying, I don't think I need to apologize. I'd apologize to the victims of Epstein for a system that doesn't hear them, but I will not apologize to them directly. I was a gayer and I went into a different room and I didn't know exactly what was. Don't fuck with us. And what happens? This is the one moment where one's enemy's enemy is one's friend. The Telegraph went after old Mandelson's straight after the dump last night of files and wanted to see if he wanted to rectify that apology. Oh, look, in a statement issued to the Telegraph on Friday night, last night, Lord Mandelson, as someone said, still a fucking lord, apologized suddenly unequivocally to Epstein's victims for his continued association with the paedophile. I was wrong to believe Epstein following his conviction and to continue my association with him afterwards. I apologize unequivocally for doing so to the women and girls who suffered. That's how he talks. I apologize unequivocally, but 2 minutes ago, I will not apologize for a system that's let them down. I apologize for the system, but I don't apologize for what I knew. I knew nothing. I was gay and I was put into a different room. Liar, liar, pants literally on fire. So suddenly Mandelson can apologize, Lars. Oh, kick him out of the Lords. Bill Gates caught a sexually transmitted disease from Russian girls. There he is with we don't know who the redacted woman there is on the right. Wow. Nice. Jeffrey Epstein raped and attacked girls several times a day as part of sickening routine. Wow. And still, the poor victims, lawyers for the victims saying, this isn't enough. Too much is redacted. Names aren't being mentioned. So this is why I think him saying 3 million and us all going, it's like people who are a bit number blind. That's got to be all of them. Do you remember there weren't any a minute ago? That's got to be all of them, 3 million. No, there's more. There's more. And that's why I'm certainly watching the global political situation in the Middle East for the next 48 hours to see what happens. How is Trump going to run away from this one? I mean, these accusations have been out there before. These lurid details around, you know, strangling, attacking, threatening to kill. There's another lurid story alleging that he was present for the killing of a baby. I mean, this stuff is dark and twisted. This cabal stuff, which people have been talking about residing in LA. This is... So, you know, but don't let the right-wing press in this country. The right-wing press in this country will go after Mandelson hard. It'll go after Andrew Mountbatten hard because it will want to occupy all of everyone, the public's mind with just them. They're the awful ones. But forget the broader, the bigger picture. Forget this fact. Trump compromised by Israel, new Epstein files claim. Oh. Megatron, some comments online from various kind of influencers and just some funny, some on point. He refused to attack Iran. That is why these files were released today, says Megatron. Douglas McGregor, we are on the precipice of a full-blown war in Iran. There's no question about it. We're really about to start World War III for Israel, Rathbone asks. Clown world. Reminder for everyone, says Melanie Dorigo. Reminder for everyone discussing the Epstein files. Underage women are minors. Sex with minors is rape. Hope this clarifies. It's like when people say underage girls. What do you mean? Children? What is an underage girl? Is there a category in the... No, what is an underage girl? No, we're not in a full-blown war with Iran. No one said that. Could be in a full-blown war. Oof. How does it leave you feeling? I mean, you know, you see, there's the crimes, which are fucking obviously awful. There's the details, which are just beyond disgusting. But then I pull back to feeling almost more appalled about the extent to which the system covers it all up. Just covers it all up. Sickened to the core, says Rachel Thomas. Sarah Jane Greer, I honestly think he will get away with it. Nothing sticks to Trump. Nothing. I'm so angry. He will die before there is justice. Well, again, but I do genuinely believe even the awfulness, the unedifying awfulness of these allegations, these suggested revelations. Unfortunately, I've been aware of them through various other testimonies that have been leaked online. So maybe this is an educated gamble by the president, in the White House, to say, look, there's a sizable number of people out there talking about the nature of these things already. So to actually release that is, it's going to allow some credence and credibility to those rumors, but they still are only secondhand testimonies and accusations, even in the files. So I think you're right. I think the belief in the idea here is that he can roll through even these. Me too. For sure, Trump will get away with it. MAGA don't care if Republicans are affected by it. They only want to own the libs. Iran is a distraction by Trump to take away details of the Epstein files. I'm sick to the stomach, says Tanya Bartlett. Angry, and what Jim and the others involved punished. They've got away with it for decades, says Hope, Love, Peace. But isn't it amazing that there can be, in any small way, a connection between the mass slaughter of, say, the Palestinians and a potential war with the sovereign state, and it can be connected with what white men did when they unzipped their trousers? Isn't it just absolutely fucking mind-blowing? But reform wants you to still get your knickers in a twist about all of them are awful. All grooming gangs are fucking awful. But there are obviously categories of grooming gangs for the Reform Party that are far worse than others. Don't accept this compromising, legitimizing of things in certain areas and not talking about things and hypocrisy and exceptional. Don't tolerate it. And meanwhile, Humanity Project reporting last night, this was breaking news, 31st of January. Who's talking about this? Since dawn. Do you remember? There's a ceasefire. We're moving on to phase 2, aren't we, in Gaza? What is phase 1? Since dawn, Israel has killed 12 Palestinians in Gaza, including 6 children, in attacks on Gaza's city and Khan Yunis. This brings the total number of people killed in the last 48 hours to 79, with a further 49 people injured in Israeli attacks. At least 12 Palestinians, half of them kids, killed. An Israeli airstrike on a tent sheltering displaced people in the Al-Mawasi area, northwest of Khan Yunis, killed at least 7 Palestinians, including 3 children. In Gaza City, emergency services reported that at least 5 Palestinians, including 3 children, were killed in an Israeli airstrike on an apartment building in the Ramal neighborhood. Since the ceasefire was announced on the 10th of October, 509 Palestinians have been killed and 1,405 injured in Israeli attacks, while a further 715 bodies have been recovered during the same period. Ceasefire? What ceasefire? Owen Jones, Israel's apologists spent over 2 years sowing distrust in the official Gaza death toll, and now the Israeli army quietly accepts that it's actually an underestimate. Eternal shame for the atrocity deniers. They must never be absolved of their guilt. The IDF, source, Israeli publication Haaretz, the IDF has accepted the estimate of the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry that approximately 71,000 Palestinians were killed during the Israel-Gaza war, noting that the number does not include missing residents who are potentially buried under rubble. How many apologists and defenders of Israel's atrocities did we see go on every single fucking news show saying that we can't trust the figures coming from the Gaza Health Authority? Do you remember that? Bullshit. All bullshit. The IDF has announced that it accepts the Palestinian estimate of 70,000 dead over the last 2 years, not including those buried under the rubble. Accepts, says Ori Goldberg, means that even the vast network of lies no longer holds. If the IDF accepts 70,000, you can rest assured it has killed innumerably more. Sangeeta Miska, this is truly appalling. The IDF now accepts the Gaza Health Ministry's conservative death toll figure, yet for 2 years of a genocide, it claimed those same figures were false. And the BBC News and other media insisted on seeding doubt in the mind of the public by using the inaccurate phrase, Hamas-led health ministry. We have been played, we have been manipulated, we have been propagandized to death. And there we were again last night with the ambassador to Palestine telling us that the hard work really starts now. Unforgivable what we have allowed to happen, and how our media has been entirely complicit in this, entirely complicit. Meanwhile, in America, you have former CNN host Don Lemon arrested. You've got independent journalists in America being arrested by the Trump regime. Who thinks, I mean, one part of me last night, here's a speculative thought. One part of me last night thought, perhaps this tranche has landed. I mean, I'm definitely of the opinion now that I think this is it's out there. Just let this information get out there. We can ride this one out. I definitely think the Trump regime have thought we can ride this one out, even though it's not nice to hear, almost not confirmation, but a reiteration of the same rumors that we've all been heard knocking about the babies, about the deaths, about the measuring just appalling stuff. So we've heard, so just let it get, okay, it's horrible, just get it out there. We can ride over it. But prior to me coming to that conclusion, late last night when we got in, I thought perhaps these were released because the Republicans have had enough of Trump now. You know, I wonder if there's, me too, do you wonder that, I mean, anyone else who's kind of really plugged into the kind of finer details of the American kind of MAGA mindset? Is there an element in the Republican Party where Republicans are thinking Donald Trump is a liability? Let's throw him under the bus. But no, I'd have thought the Republicans and MAGA lot, they just want power come what may. Or is this just yet his next unedifying, awful flood the zone moment? Getting us to move away from ICE and everything that's gone wrong with the killing of citizens and the arrest of independent journalists in America. We suddenly focus on this again in a horrible way. And then in a minute, we're going to be focused on Iran. What do we think? Our own 07. Let's be honest, his voters have probably been doing the stuff he's accused of. That's why they're still supporting him. Crikey, that's a big accusation. Amazonian from Boston. God help us all. I couldn't believe we elected Trump yet again. And I feel for you, Amazonian from Boston. You know, we love America and Americans. We don't love Trump's America and Trumpian, you know, Americans. But fucking hell, if you're trapped in America, and look, rest assured, Brits, we will be in a similar situation if we let reform get in. I'm not suggesting reform are involved in the Epstein files. But Farage is a keen supporter of the Israeli Zionist regime and Trump. Jocelyn Wilson, don't think the King Charles state visit can go ahead. I don't think he should go. I mean, you know, clearly, yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for reminding me. I mean, clearly the royal family were trying to get ahead of this news bombshell. There's no coincidence that they demoted him and chucked him out of Frogmore or whatever it was. The rumor on the Hill is that Republican senators are turning on him because he's putting their midterms at risk now with the ICE stuff, says Me Too. Rachel Thomas, I think it's all designed to wage war on our nervous systems, weaken people into further apathy. I think Trump thinks no one will hold him accountable. ICE is going to be in my area next week or so. I've heard, where are you, Persephone Personified? I've heard they want to go to, is it Pennsylvania? Or no, Philadelphia. And I keep hearing on the sort of people from Philadelphia saying, be careful if you go to Philadelphia, ICE baby. You won't get a nice reception. Can't help but admit that I'm enjoying the various memes knocking about around the Melania turkey at the cinema. A friend of mine, says this meme, is an undocumented immigrant and has been hiding in Melania theaters because he knows people assume no one is in there. And here's one of Melania shouting at Donald Trump in the Oval Office, "My movie is shit, invade somebody." I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Trump and Melania, in their megalomaniacal narcissism, thought that perhaps Melania, the documentary, would eclipse the release of these files today. I wonder if Trump was told these are landing today and this is what's in them. Anyway, I'm sure there's going to be more revelations that come out as people go through 3 million files, an eye-watering number. But don't just think because it's such a big number, that's all of them. Because don't forget, a couple of weeks ago, there weren't any files. It was all a myth. Okay, guys, again, sorry for the very adult nature of a lot of that. And I hope we are not the only channel that is just going to keep banging the drum that this is all directly connected to the West's complicit conniving and cover that the West have provided for Israel's committing of a genocide in Gaza, and now the establishment of the Board of Peace and building a Riviera on the bones of Palestinians. This is all inextricably entwined with the pedophilic, illegal behavior of white men. So there you go. All right, guys. As you know, there's no Curly Cooks today. Nadia's not is having to pop out of London for the afternoon, but more content will be landing later. Do check out the Home Time vlog last night for just totally non-political escape. All right, guys. Take care. Bye.